Hello to my 3 YouTube followers. Um, Welcome back to another lesson in cello technique. It's currently 6 o'clock here in Lincolnshire, so the sun is in the process of setting, which is why I've got this very much yin and yang colour representation going on my face. I can't cope for that. We've got a big glass door there, so yeah, I'm just going to have to be in darkness on this side. So if you watched last week, we looked at how to hold the cello bow. So, and excuse my shorts as well, it's very hot outside. So we looked at how to hold the cello bow. So we looked at having nice straight but rounded fingers and a nice bent thumb, if I show that against a white background there. Okay, so all of this contributes to flexibility and comfort around where we hold the bow. Okay? If you adopt holding the cello bow like this, you won't have any sort of problems with pain. You'll be able to play for quite a long period of time without feeling tired. But so yeah, so it's well and truly worth trying. This week I was thinking, well, we looked at the bow last time, so why don't we look at actually how to hold the cello. So before we actually move on to the cello, we need to look at how we sit. So when we sit, we need to make sure that we focus on where our bones are and where our muscles, how we're tensing, how we're sitting. And so for that, just want to have a nice little roll around, sitting upright, slouching down, and feel where you feel balanced, okay? You should have a nice straight back, but not too rigid, nice and relaxed, but you don't want to be too slouched down, too relaxed, okay? So you need a nice mid-ground. So if you roll back and forwards on your bum, you'll feel your, I don't know what they're called, so I'm just going to call them bum bones. Okay, and you'll be able to feel them rolling back and forth. So you need to find a position where you're sitting nice on top of them, but nothing's too uncomfortable. Okay, so for me this is about here. So do that, roll around, strengthen and relax your stomach. Feel what it's like to be tensed over, feel what it's like to be stretched back. Yeah, and then once you feel comfortable, then we need to look on to chair height, okay? So chair height's really important when playing the cello. You don't want to be sat too low so your knees are way up past your ears, and you don't want to be sat too high where you can barely touch the ground. As a rule, you need to sort of look for a chair height where your knees are just over 90 degrees, okay? So they should just be over a right angle at about 95 degrees. So there should just be a gentle slope going down. The average piano stool for most is a suitable height. Some taller people may need to adjust it higher, or some shorter people may need to adjust it lower so that their feet aren't too far off the ground. Okay? So once we're sat comfortably, we need to look at how we're leaning. To look at how we're leaning, I'll go side on, okay? When we're holding the cello, we don't want to lean into it, and we don't want to have to lean back, because that'll cause backache and it'll cause stomach ache, and the same thing for if we're leaning forward. We need to be nice and straight and nice and relaxed. Everything should just be as straight as a rod. Sorry, that looks really weird. And you shouldn't be bent or contorted in any other way. Okay, so if you look at me, I'm starting to lean back a bit there, and I can feel it really tensing in the smaller. Quick jump forward there, sorry, someone was about to walk in just as I was demonstrating, and as you can see now the sun is fully setting and my face is on fire, but we'll try and prevail through this. So we need to make sure that we're nice, relaxed, we're not tense in our back, we're nice and straight, we're not leaning too far in either direction. So now comes to actually holding the cello. So again, at this point we've worked out how long we need our spike to be, and then comes the preference of how high we want our cello to sit. So we can have our cello quite steep and we sit into it straight, or we can have it near horizontal and it still sits into us. So if I demonstrate those on my cello, this is going to... I like my cello quite horizontal. So I have the spike quite long, and so the strings are going down, I would say probably at about a 45-degree angle. Others like to have their cello more vertical. And so they have a slightly shorter spike, and so they keep the same straight position, but they have it much lower. This is about an average, and then there are some people who take it to extremes, who have it even shorter. Like this. And so they're really having to play into it with the arm. But like I said, I like it quite horizontal, as I find you can get a lot more power out of it, as you're not having to press down as much, you're just using the weight of the bow. And Matt from the future here. Okay, so I'm not actually really saying that much in this sort of clip of the video. Basically, what you need to look for is that whenever you hold the cello, your back's nice and straight and you feel nice and relaxed. You're not having to stretch too far in order to reach the far end of the cello, and when you bow, you're not having to stretch too far out from what you're comfortable with. There is no set sort of method or guidelines for how long or how high you need to have your cello. It's whatever's more comfortable for you, but just try and avoid stretching and doing your body harm. Great. It's also really important that you keep your shoulders nice and relaxed. We don't want our shoulders to be up here. It's often really quite common among new learners that when they bow, their shoulder is risen up because that's how they think they need to find it. Your shoulders need to be dropped down as far as they can possibly go. Okay? You may think, oh, okay, I'm quite relaxed like this, but in reality, you can drop them further. Okay? And when you're here, this is the relaxed point of which you need to be sat when you're holding the cello. So you're sitting like this, your shoulders are falling deep into your body, and then that's when you know that you've hit the right spot. If you can then reach the very tip of the fingerboard, then you're absolutely fine. If you can't, adjust your cello so that you can without having to stretch and manoeuvre around the instrument. Okay, great. That's the last message I think now. Bye. So, once we're set up, you can see the cello meets my chest. Okay, I'm not having to sit into it and I'm not having to lean back to accommodate it. I'm sitting straight and it's meeting me right on our breastbone, right in the centre, and that's where it's hitting us. It's not uncomfortable. I'm supporting it with my knees, so the whole weight isn't just on my ribs. I'm supporting. From front on, it should look like this. The cello is largely in the middle, but slightly going off to one side so that we can have the neck just going to our left. You don't want it too far, as then everything becomes skewered and you're having to stretch your arm to reach the strings. So aim for it to be as straightforward as possible. Have the spike pointed directly in front of you, and then lean it. When we're bowing, according to William Pleath, it's better if you can have the left side of the cello with the A string pointed slightly more towards the right, as that way you're not having to reach as far up with the bow. So rather than having it straight like this, and I have to reach all the way out to bow the A string, we just take it and we rotate it slightly so it sits on a higher angle on our left knee. The large majority of the keeping in position of the cello will be done with your knees, okay? Because you need to move this hand to reach higher registers of the cello, and this hand doesn't even actually touch the cello at all. It's got to remain completely independent. The large majority of the securing of the cello takes place with the knees, which, as you can see, mine are very bare at the minute because, again, the weather is absolutely stunning outside. He's just talking about the weather. Why is he talking about the weather? Why is he still talking about the weather? But let's move on. So our knees are going to hold the cello. Like we said before, the left one is going to hold the cello slightly higher so that we get that angle on the A string so that we don't have to reach as far up. And then the other one is just going to sit just a little bit lower so that we're still tilted. Okay? So when you're sat properly, which I'm not quite on my stool, your knees are going to hold the cello. So, not that you should, but this means that you can actually move back with your chest and you can move forward. And when you're holding it especially, you can move around. And you should be able to be free to move around the cello so that you're not just stationary and stuck. Because what in music is actually stationary? Everything should be flowing, everything should be allowed to move. So why shouldn't we be able to move around our cello? So we need to be able to be free. So we secure it with our knees, and with the assistance of our left hand supporting it with our thumb, we should be able to move and stretch from side to side. Thanks again to the 3 people that watch this channel. Hopefully more will watch soon, but you never know with these things. But if I can help somebody, then I know that I'm doing a good job. So next time I'm thinking that we're going to do some work with the left hand and how we position it, and then after that we'll work on combining that, holding the cello and the bow together, so that we can actually start to get some sounds going. Until then, thank you very much and keep practicing. Practice!